Picture this. It's August 2nd, 1876, Deadwood, South Dakota. You're sitting at a poker table in Nuttal and Mann Saloon number 10, whiskey in front of you, cards in your hand. It's loud, it's smoky, it smells like bad decisions and cheaper whiskey. Normal Tuesday. You asked for the seat against the wall 3 times today, the seat where you can see the door. You always sit with your back to the wall, always. It's not paranoia, it's just how you've stayed alive this long. But today, someone else had it. So for the first time in years, you're sitting with your back to the door. You're holding 2 pairs, aces and eights. Then, a 25-year-old nobody named Jack McCall walks through the door, puts a .45 caliber revolver 6 inches from the back of your head, and pulls the trigger. Hey there! Today we're talking about Wild Bill Hickok, gunfighter, lawman, living legend, and the man who taught the American West what it meant to be famous. We're going to cover who he was, how he died, and exactly what happened inside his skull in the half second after Jack McCall pulled that trigger. Because here's the thing about Wild Bill. He spent his entire life being the most dangerous man in any room he walked into, until he sat down at the wrong poker table. So who exactly were you? Who was Wild Bill Hickok? Your real name was James Butler Hickok, born in 1837 in Homer, Illinois. Normal kid, farm family. Nothing about your childhood suggested you'd end up on the wrong end of a 45 in a Dakota saloon with half the American West knowing your name. You headed west at 18, started as a stagecoach driver for the Pony Express, then a wagon master, then an Army Scout during the Civil War. And somewhere along the way, you picked up a gun and discovered something unsettling. You were extraordinarily good at killing people with it. Your first documented gunfight was 1861, a dispute at a ranch in Nebraska. You killed 3 men, not in a standoff, not at high noon in the street. In a chaotic, ugly, close quarters fight where most men would have panicked and died, you didn't panic. That was always your thing. Everyone else's hands shook, yours didn't. By the time the Civil War ended, you were already a legend. You became a lawman in Kansas, first in Hays City, then Abilene. These weren't quiet towns. Abilene in 1871 was the endpoint of the Chisholm Trail. Every cattle drive in Texas ended there, which meant it was full of cowboys who'd been on the road for months, who had money, who had guns, and who had absolutely nothing to lose on a Saturday night. You walked those streets with 2 ivory-handled Colt 1851 Navy revolvers, worn butts forward. Your kill count as a lawman is disputed by historians, but the low-end estimate is around 7 men in legitimate gunfights. The high end, claimed by you yourself, was over 100. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, and still extraordinary. Here's what made you different from every other gunfighter of the era. It wasn't just speed. Plenty of men were fast. It was accuracy under pressure. Most gunfighters in real life, not movie life, missed a lot. Adrenaline, distance, bad light, shaking hands. You didn't miss. Witnesses described you as almost calm during gunfights, like the danger turned something off in you instead of on. You also never sat with your back to a door. You always positioned yourself to see every entrance to a room. It was habit, ritual, obsession. The thing that had kept you alive through 2 decades of being exactly the kind of man other men wanted dead. Until August 2nd, 1876, when you sat with your back to the door, just once. So who was Jack McCall, and why did he walk into that saloon? Here's where the story gets both interesting and slightly pathetic. Because Jack McCall was nobody, a drifter, a small-time gambler with a lazy eye and a reputation for exactly nothing. The kind of man who exists in the background of other people's stories. The night before the shooting, McCall had sat at your poker table. He lost everything. Every cent he had. And you, being you, did something that would cost you your life. You took pity on him. Gave him money for breakfast, told him not to gamble what he couldn't afford to lose. For most people, that's a kind gesture. For Jack McCall, a broke, humiliated man in a town full of people who would remember his loss, it was an insult. Public charity from the most famous man in the West. A reminder of exactly how small he was. So the next day, McCall walked into Nuttal and Mann's saloon, ordered a whiskey, and waited. You were deep in a poker game, sitting with your back to the door. The other players would later remember you seemed distracted that day, that you'd been uneasy all morning. McCall walked up behind you, pressed a .45 caliber single-action revolver against the back of your skull, said the words, "Damn you, take that," and pulled the trigger. The bullet entered the base of your skull and exited through your right cheek. You were dead before you hit the floor, cards still in your hand. Aces and eights, all black. That hand has been called the dead man's hand later on. He was tried that same day in Deadwood, acquitted, because Deadwood wasn't a legal township yet, and the trial had no actual jurisdiction. The town was furious. You were beloved there. McCall made the catastrophic decision to brag about it. He was rearrested, tried again in a proper federal court in Yankton, Dakota territory, convicted of murder, and hanged on March 1st, 1877, 6 months after the shooting. He was 24 years old. But let's go back to that saloon. Back to the moment McCall pulled that trigger. Because what happened inside your skull in the next 0.003 seconds is the part the dime novels never told, the part nobody talks about. And it's the most brutal version of this story there is. First, the weapon, because it matters. McCall used a .45 caliber revolver, most likely a Caliber Sharps improved revolver or a Smith & Wesson Model 2. The round it fired weighed about 255 grains, roughly 16.5 grams, traveling at around 700 to 800 feet per second. For comparison, a modern 9mm weighs 7.5 grams. McCall's bullet was more than twice as heavy. That's not just a bigger bullet, that's a fundamentally different category of damage. But the caliber isn't even the most important variable here. It's where it hit you. The base of your skull. The occipital bone, the thick curved plate of bone at the back and bottom of your cranium, is actually the thickest part of your entire skull, up to 7mm in some places. It evolved to be tough because it protects the most critical real estate in your entire nervous system, your brainstem. Here's what your brainstem actually is. It's the oldest part of your brain evolutionarily, about the size of your thumb, sitting right where your brain meets your spinal cord. It controls everything that keeps you alive without you having to think about it. Your heartbeat, your breathing, your blood pressure, your ability to stay conscious at all. It's not where you think or feel or dream. It's just the thing that keeps the lights on. Destroy it and the lights don't flicker, they just go out. A gunshot to the frontal lobe is survivable in some cases. People have lived through it. The brain can reroute, compensate, adapt, but a shot to the base of your skull doesn't give you any of that margin. When McCall fired, the bullet didn't have to travel far to reach your brainstem. Millimeters of tissue between entry point and the most critical neurological structures in your body. Your medulla oblongata, controlling your heartbeat and breathing. Your pons, regulating your consciousness and facial sensation. Your cerebellum, coordinating every movement your body makes. All of it, directly in the bullet's path. At point-blank range, something else happens too. Muzzle gases. When a gun fires at near contact range, it's not just the bullet entering the wound. The superheated gases from the gunpowder discharge follow the bullet directly into the wound cavity. Inside a closed space like your skull, those gases expand violently, shattering bone outward from the inside. This is why the exit wound was your right cheek and not the back of your head. The bullet entered at the base of your skull, traveled diagonally upward through your brainstem, and the combination of bullet path and gas expansion blew out through your face. And then there's the temporary cavity. When a bullet moves through tissue, it doesn't just make a bullet-sized hole. The surrounding tissue gets displaced violently outward, creating a balloon of pressure up to 10 times the bullet's diameter before snapping back. In brain tissue, which has the consistency of firm jello and zero ability to absorb mechanical shock, that means total destruction of everything in the surrounding area. In your case, that temporary cavity formed directly around your brainstem. There was no cascade failure, no slow shutdown, no final seconds of confused consciousness. It just stopped. Witnesses said you didn't slump, didn't grab the table, didn't make a sound. Your body went rigid for a fraction of a second, then dropped straight out of your chair. That split second of total muscular tension is called decerebrate posturing, a simultaneous final electrical discharge from every muscle in your body as your nervous system catastrophically fails. The bullet traveled approximately 8 inches through your skull in roughly 0.003 seconds. The most dangerous man in the West never knew he was endangered.